Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Nolan, and this is the presentation of my inquiry paper, where the topic was organizational life cycle and strategies. When discussing organizational life cycle, there are many models, but we will be using the Cameron-Quinn model, which states an organization goes from birth to growth to maturity and finally to decline. And some of the strategies we will be talking about are the Parnell and Caraher, which are the 6 strategic types, and a first mover, which is companies that are highly innovative and they go into new markets. There is second movers who capitalize on the success of first movers. There is segment control, so these organizations find markets that they can corner and they can control a certain customer base. There is product service or breadth, where organizations get into multiple markets. There is production or distribution efficiency, where they improve their processes and become much more efficient. And there is perceived uniqueness, and this is organizations like Apple who have a certain mystique and a high demand on their product. An organization's life cycle position can have positive impacts on their strategy. In the birth stage, organizations are highly entrepreneurial, and they are more likely to take risks and be very creative. They were also much more likely to use the open systems framework, which accounts for all the changes in the environment, and they look at demands and they cater to those. They also have very high commitment. This leads to good engagement, good employee empowerment, and they're more likely to share values with the organization. They also focused a lot on relationship building, and due to the small size of the birth of a company, they're more likely to have a horizontal structure and feel equal to one another. During the growth stage, organizations are more likely to go after more opportunities because they are growing. They have a high sense of pride and they feel that they are going to keep growing. So this leads to a high engagement with employees and managers and leaders, and they focus on increasing stability. So they want to become more productive, and everyone focuses on being more efficient. In the maturity stage, organizations are much more sophisticated, they're highly efficient, and they run very well. They know exactly what they have been doing for a long time, and they become predictable. Some of the negative impacts that a life cycle can have on an organization are: in the birth stage, there's a high level of uncertainty. This is the anxiety of doing anything new, and it can cause some leaders or founders or owners to not fully commit to a process, which will lead to their downfall. Also, there could be an assumption of success. So this is the opposite. People are very cocky in this stage. They believe they have $1 million idea and it will never fail, and they do not look at other possibilities that they can go with. Also, during the growth stage, organizations can take on too much. So they have too many priorities, which means there are no priorities. They are also very insensitive to upturns and downturns. They believe that because they are growing, a bad quarter is okay, it's going to be all right, and sometimes they don't look at why this happened, which could hurt them in the long run. They also are proven to emphasize much less on the open systems framework, so they believe that the environment is not going to change and that they have a winner and their structure is good. During the maturity stage, organizations are highly inflexible. So all the structure and the rules that they put in order to be productive and more efficient are now capping their creativity, and they're not able to make the adjustments that are necessary that are emphasized in the open systems framework. Also, they are much more afraid of risk, so they know what they want and they will focus on containing costs, and they will accept their mature stage rather than trying to get back into the growth stage. There is also less commitment. In a study done by Cameron and Wetton, they showed individuals who were with an organization over a long period of time stopped doing extra work and they did not try as hard. In the decline stage, organizations focus much more inward. They have unrealistic optimism, poor communication, so they start pointing fingers, and they show a large commitment to past strategy. So they want to get back to the basics when this is exactly the opposite of what they should do. Some of the best practices that organizations should do: you should establish a niche, which means this is usually for first movers or innovative organizations. They're much more likely to be successful. You want to contain costs in order to be able to make adaptations that could come about, and focus on the requirements of people. It found that organizations that just wanted to be profitable were much less likely to be successful than other organizations who focused on the environment and an open systems approach. During the growth stage, important is the uncertainty absorption. So this is all of the possible problems coming in, and you have to be able to put controls in to deal with it. And one thing is staying flexible with a open systems framework. And you also want to be a first mover in this. So this is you're beginning to grow, and you want to keep getting into new markets. You want to keep growing. You want to keep acquiring companies as a second mover or do something of that sort. During maturity, you want to decentralize, so you want to use a matrix structure. You want to focus on cornering your market and building your brand with perceived uniqueness. And during the decline stage, you want to change your structure. You want to do something drastic, and it will lead to a higher commitment from your employees and could help save it. You want to be realistic in this, and you want to try and get into new markets. One of the tools I discussed in my paper is a strategy canvas, which is a visual tool that reveals the current strategy of an organization and compares it with their competitors. And this allows organizations to see where their competitive advantage lies and highlights possible opportunities. If you look at the graph on the right, you can see an organization compared with price, with meals or lounges, or anything that a competitor could have, and people can figure out where they need to make improvements or where they should emphasize their strengths. This could also be used for other related industries that aren't even your first competitors, and it is very effective. During my research and writing this paper, I was able to get a great importance of the open systems framework, and showed me how not only organizations but people have to adapt to their changes, to changes in the environment. And I just started my own online business, and this is going to be something great and something that I'm going to try and use definitely as my online business continues to grow. And I think it will help me bring value to any organization and be able to understand why people are making some certain decisions. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.